What is up, everyone? Video Box here, bringing you a new deck profile, and today I'm going to talk about Fish XYZ OTK. Now, some of the Fish XYZ decks I've seen online, they've been really bad, so I figured I'd post up my deck to give, Fish decks a better name. But yeah, I'll just go ahead and go right into it. So obviously, any Fish OTK deck has to run 3 super ancient deep sea coelacanths. Now I'm going to go over the deck really quickly and I'll explain how the deck works later. I run 3 needle sunfish. This card is actually very annoying, but I'll explain that later. 3 shark stickers. Now I'll assume that all you guys know what these cards do, so I won't bother explaining them. 2 Oystermeisters. 3 wind-up sharks. I'll explain why I run these later as well. 2 mermail abyss spikes. 1 fishbark launcher. And 1 gores. So those are the monsters. Now on the spells, Monster Reborn, Dark Hole, Heavy Storm, and Pot of Avarice, the one-ofs. 2 mystical space typhoons. 2 Pot of Duality. 2 Forbidden Lance. I might change these to dresses because I think they work better. 2 Salvage. And last spell, 2 Water Hazard. It's actually one of the most important spells, but again, I'll explain that later. Traps, 1 Starlight Road, 1 Solemn Judgment. 2 Torrential Tributes. 2 Bubble Bringer from the new set. And 2 Fish Depth Charge. Alright, so I'll go over the extra deck really quickly too. That's my Force token. Stardust Dragon, and 1 Gungnir. 1 Tyrus, 1 Photon Papillon Operative, and 1 Maestro Symphonesian. My rank 3s, Acid Golem, Black Ray Lancer, number 17 Leviathan Dragon, 2 number 20 Giga Brilliance, 1 Temp Tempo, Zen Mains, 1 Zen Mighty, 1 Moose Rhythm, and 1 Melody. Alright, so this is the deck, and I'll actually start explaining how the deck works, and to give an idea of how you actually OTK with this deck. Alright, so if you want to OTK with this deck, your main priority should be first and foremost to summon coelacanth as quickly as possible. Now, some of the ways that I actually use to summon him include, gores. I mean, you drop gores, you get your token, your 2 tributes are there. Now, Water Hazard is also a very underrated card, and this is actually why it's important to this deck, because it allows you to special summon a level 4 or lower monster without using your normal, and this is only if you control no monsters, so that's likely to happen. So use this effect, special summon Needle Sunfish, and you use Shark Sticker's trigger ability to drop itself from your hand, and you already have 2 tributes. You can also do the same thing with 2 wind-up sharks with Water Hazard. Or, to be creative, if you don't have Water Hazard on the field, if Fishbark Launcher is in your graveyard with a bunch of water monsters, you can special summon it with its own effect. And then you can also drop Shark Stickers from your hand on its special summon. And there's your 2 tributes. And if all else fails, you can also have the secondary effect of Bubble Bringer, which is to send itself to the graveyard to special summon 2 level 3 or lower water monsters with the same name. So that's another way to do it as well. Okay, now that you know how to summon coelacanth onto the field, I'll start going over some of the OTK combos that this deck can actually perform. This first one I like to call the Brilliant OTK. So you use coelacanth's effect, you get 2 Oystermeisters and 2 Needle Sunfish. It doesn't necessarily have to be these 4 monsters in particular, but generally you want to have this kind of setup. I mean, you can also put Shark Stickers too in there as well. But generally what you want is to have 4 level 3 monsters summoned from coelacanth. So yeah, short and sweet, you just overlay twice, and then you get 2 number 20 Gigabrilliance. Now, assuming that you're attacking into a clear field, you'll detach twice, so detach one from there, and detach one from this one, and now all your monsters gain 600 attack. So if all 3 of these monsters were to attack directly, the opponent would lose 8,200 damage. That's more than 8,000. It's an OTK. Alright, so now we're going to a little bit more complicated combos with this deck. So for the rest of my examples, I'm just going to have the big fish setup out already, just to save time. But the OTK really comes to life when you actually are able to summon a 3rd Exceed monster. And that's where Wind-Up Carriers and Mighty comes in. But in order for that to actually happen, you need to either have Shark Stickers or Wind-Up Shark already in your hand after you summon the big fish. So this next combo I like to call the Wind-Up OTK. So we'll overlay these 2 guys, or those guys, into Wind-Up Carriers and Mighty, and number 20 Gigabrilliance. It is important to note that as soon as he summons Zen Mighty, you don't activate its effect right away, only because you're not going to have enough space. But after you summon the 2nd Exceed monster, you're fine. So what you want to do now is activate Zen Mighty's effect. You detach a material, and then from your deck, you special summon Wind-Up Shark. Now on the summon of the Shark, you can use the trigger effect of Shark Stickers, or the trigger effect of another Wind-Up Shark. We'll use Shark in this case. So on the summon of Shark, special summon the one from your hand, and now you're left with a choice. If you're attacking into a clear field, all you really have to do is detach from Gigabrilliant. All your monsters gain 300 attack, and if they all attack directly, it's game. But what this allows you to do is also give you options to exceed into rank 3, 4, or 5. So yeah. You have a lot of options with this one, but you generally don't want to use this one unless you have to get over like a really big monster. And it's not advisable to use this OTK if your opponent has a lot of monsters. Alright, this next OTK is what I call the Music OTK. Now you generally use this version if your opponent has a decent attack monster on their side of the field and you still want to go for game. So yeah, you have your setup with Coelacanth and the monsters you get out, but you also still need to have either Shark Stickers or Wind-Up Shark in your hand. So what you do now is you exceed Sunfish, Oystermeister, Sunfish, Oystermeister into Zen Mighty, and also Melody, the Brass Jin. Now it's important to note that depending on how you detach your monsters, it actually makes a big difference. Because notice how I'm overlaying Sunfish and Oystermeister together, as opposed to 2 Sunfishes and 2 Oystermeisters. This is where Needle Sunfish really comes into play here. Because as you activate the effects of your Exceed monsters, if you detach Sunfish and it gets sent to the graveyard, its effect will still trigger, meaning that you can pick one monster on the field or your opponent's side of the field and it loses 500 attack. So as you detach Sunfish, Tiramisu loses 500. So yeah, you activate Wind-Up Carriers and Mighty's effect, and you special summon Shark from your deck. And on the special summon of Shark, you drop Shark Stickers in defense mode, I guess. Now you activate... Actually, no, you activate Wind-Up Shark's effect, you lower it to level 3, and then you exceed Stickers and Wind-Up Shark, and what you get now is Moose Rhythm, the String Jin. So before you do anything else, now you activate Melody's effect by detaching Needle Sunfish again, target the Tiramisu. So that's the 2nd Sunfish sent to the graveyard, so now its attack is minus 1,000. And you use Melody's effect to allow Moose Rhythm to attack twice. This is important because we all know Moose Rhythm's effect is when it attacks, in the damage step you can detach a material and its attack is doubled until the end phase. So now you want to enter battle phase. Moose Rhythm will attack Tiramisu, activate Moose Rhythm's effect, detach, and now its attack is at 3,000 until the end of the turn. So the queen dies. And the relevance of this is because Moose Rhythm's attack increase lasts until the end of the turn, and because of Melody, it can attack twice. So the secondary attack that it has is also at 3,000. So if it attacks directly for 3,000, that's another bonus. Not to mention Coelacanth, Wind-Up Carriers and Mighty, and Melody haven't attacked yet. So the opponent only has like one problematic monster. This is the clear-cut way to actually rid their field and just attack for game. Alright, so now I'm just going to show you a pretty random example of an OTK that actually involves the use of Gungnir. Now the only setup you need is to have Oystermeister, both of them in the graveyard, and Fishborg Launcher in the grave as well. And you need Bubble Bringer either active or a Bubble Bringer on the field. And you also need a Coelacanth in hand and a card to discard for its effect. Okay, so what you do first is you special the launcher because of the Oystermeister's already in there. Then you activate Bubble Bringer's secondary effect, send it. You get your Oystermeisters back, and then you synchro these into the Gungnir. So as soon as Gungnir drops, the trigger effect of Oystermeister activates, and you get a token for each. And you use your normal summon this turn to tribute the tokens, obviously, and you summon Coelacanth. So now you activate his effect, pitch a card, and you can only summon 3 monsters, but that doesn't really matter. So now what you do is you exceed into Wind-Up Carriers and Mighty. Then you activate the Mighty's effect, summon Shark from your deck, activate Shark's effect, lower its level to 3, and then you exceed with the other Needle Sunfish into any rank 3 you want. We'll just use Giga Brilliance because it's badass. And if you were to detach Needle Sunfish or whatever, all your monsters gain 300 attack, and if they attack directly, it's pretty much game. Now, so that's one way to actually use Gungnir, but from all the other examples that I gave, it's not limited to just playing it out that way. I mean, there's a lot of options that this deck actually has, and if you really want to explore it, feel free to do so. But these are some of the ones that I use in particular because, you know, they work the best. And I have other Exceed monsters in the extra deck just for those random situations. So you never really know exactly what's going to happen, but I just gave out some general examples of what you can do with this deck. I mean, there's a world of options to explore, and the fact that you have options at all is actually what makes the deck really fun to use. And I know some of the deck's weaknesses involve, like, Effect Veiler. Obviously, if you Effect Veiler the big fish, you know, you're going to have a hard time. And Maxi is also another problematic card, only because, yeah, you don't want to special too much and have your opponent, you know, kind of wreck your field later. But Maxi isn't that problematic because when you activate Coelacanth's effect, all the fishes that are summoned count as one summon, you know, because they're all summoned at the same time, so the opponent would only draw a card, and you can just sit tight with that for one turn, and then hopefully the opponent doesn't mess with you later. Alright, so now before I sign off, there's actually one key thing that I didn't really address in the video thus far, and is that when you actually go through your big field with all the fish monsters, you lose a lot of hand advantage to get that set up. Now, how you control your hand after you do your big plays actually matters quite a bit. And this is where Salvage and, I guess, Pot of Avarice really come into handy, because Salvage is what helps you replenish your hand as you try to do your combos. For instance, if you try to summon Coelacanth using the Water Hazard combo, let's say you use Sunfish and Stickers to do so, right? So these are now in the graveyard, and assuming you don't have any like other cards in your hand, so you're kind of like, oh shoot, what do I do now? If you activate Salvage, you can add the 2 tributes back to your hand, and you still have the cards you need necessary to complete the OTK, because you have a card that discards to activate his effect, and you also have Shark Stickers in your hand to get that 3rd Exceed monster on the field to do one of the other setups that I've shown you previously. But yeah, honestly the biggest issue is to use as little cards as possible to summon Coelacanth. Generally it would take me about, I think, 3 to 4 cards, sometimes 5 to summon Coelacanth, you know, but the idea is to just use as little cards as possible to summon Coelacanth, and then you'd be able to use his effect as well. So yeah, if you watch how your hand is, you'll be able to succeed with this deck the majority of the time. So yeah, this is my Fish OTK deck profile. Hope you guys enjoyed what you see, and feel free to rate, comment, or subscribe if you guys like what you saw. And yeah, this is Video Box signing off. Until next time, peace out, guys.